Yeah, not they are censoring her.
And so let's say that I was hired under Schedule B. Well, Schedule B might have said, listen, I have collective bargaining agreements. I am protected under, the Merit Protection System, Merit System Protection Board, all of those things. Well, if they requested for someone to be moved from Schedule B to Schedule F, that would have removed all of their protections. That's what it would have done. So instead of them having representation, instead of them being able to, how can I say this? Instead of them having to notify somebody they're going to be fired, instead of them being entitled to representation and being able to appeal the decision, it would have anything. Or and doing policy. So what Joe Biden read online. Got it? Okay. Thanks, Red Hot. I appreciate it. But I was able to kind of give her cool rags and some medication and all of that. And so it's finally broken. She's over there right now watching videos. So she's doing okay right now. But unmuting.
No, I got it.
Okay,
I got
it. Yeah. Good morning. How are you?
I'm kind of punchy. I've been up all night.
I get that.
I just, the thing that really, I was thinking about Harris, but then I saw this guy that she picked for VP, and he's disgusting.
In what way?
Well, I've got an autistic son. I'm sitting here watching him on the stage the other night at DNC. He yanks the arm of his son on national television. You don't do that to a special needs kid, especially an autistic kid. It traumatizes the hell out of him. And so now I'm thinking, he did this in front of all these people. What does he do when the cameras aren't on? That and the thing where he keeps referring to himself as being in the war. I've seen like 3 or 4 times now. I saw him talking to a Gold Star family about how he had to transition back to civilian status after coming home from the war. And he said, and what grown man runs around jumping up and down, taking selfies like a 12-year-old at a Taylor Swift concert? He's and they say the Republicans are weird. He's as weird as you get. And
so here's what I would say to you, John. My first question would be...
I'm done with it.
Okay, well, that's fine. But my first question would be, is you have an autistic son, right? I also have people in my family that are, on the spectrum.
And so I guarantee you've never seen him yank him like you would.
Okay,
I wouldn't do that to a dog.
Hey, John, can you do me a favor? Because what I didn't do was interrupt you, so it'd be great if you didn't interrupt me.
I'm really upset about that the other night.
I got you. So here's the thing. If your son is getting ready to walk into a teleprompter or walk off the stage or walk into the street.
Yes.
Do you grab them?
No, I put my arm around him and I talk to him. And my son is a lot less high functioning than that kid that was on the stage the other night.
Well, I would be careful before you make assumptions as to Gus's functionality because you don't know him.
Okay,
right?
well,
What you might see from a few seconds on television may or may not be an accurate representation as to his entire functionality, right? So I'm always mindful when people want to make a medical diagnosis of someone that they don't know anything about, right? And here's what I would say, right? Having children of my own and grandchildren of my own, what I know is that when a child is in danger, you react quickly. right? And you guide them off the stage. Now that can have whatever kind of appearance that it has. What I can say is that from everything that I have seen, right? Everything that I have seen, Tim Waltz appears to be an incredible dad. He's done incredible work with other teenagers, with other individuals that he has mentored all along the way, right? Mm-hmm. So my personal belief, having watched the DNC, right? Having watched everything that you watched, what I did not see was anything that was abusive or anything that was violent or anything with any of those things, right? So I personally do not get that from him. And I don't think that it's an accurate representation of who he is as a dad, right? You're entitled to feel however you feel about it.
No, I got
an
an expert opinion
wasn't violent
about it. I called Mrs. Soma. She has a school called the Halo Academy in Austin, Texas. She's the #1 teacher of autistic children in the world.
She's not Gus's parents. Right? So here's what I would say is, listen, John, anybody can sit in front of their television and speculate as to what they think was appropriate. She doesn't know that child. Okay, and if she made a public statement about that, she may want to. So let me just tell you this.
Tell you what you do.
I'm hold on. No, don't tell me what to do. Hold on.
Expert in the field.
John, did I just ask you not to interrupt me?
When
Why
you're
is
going
that hard?
up on the stage and you have an autistic
Why
son,
is that
and
hard for you to be respectful and not interrupt me? You are not going to talk over me. It's not going to happen.
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
are not going to talk over me. You are not going to talk over me.
I'm not trying to talk over you.
We're either going to take turns.
I'm trying to tell you the truth.
We are going to either take turns, John, or I'm going to have to drop you from the panel. So would you like to take turns speaking or not?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So what you might want to be careful of, and what this teacher might want to be careful of, is there something, I'll be damned, John. It's impulse control. It's impulse control, sir. Practice it. Seriously. Because you literally just said, go ahead, and then you started speaking again. So I'm going to ask you to be a man of your word and let me finish what I'm saying.
Go for it.
Got it. So one thing that is incredibly important when you are speaking about someone else's medical condition, in any way, shape, or form, are you familiar with something called the Goldwater Rule?
The Goldwater Rule? No, I'm not.
Yes. Okay. Well, the Goldwater Rule is a standard from the AMA, the American Medical Association. And what AMA says is for people to not, especially if they are in any kind of medical field, to not diagnose people who are not actually their patients.
Really?
So what I would say to the teacher, I don't know what her background is or what her training is, but if she is making some sort of diagnosis about Gus or his functionality or any of those things, I would avoid doing that.
Okay, Danny, let me just respond to that. Any psychologist worth his salt can watch Trump on TV for 30 minutes and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's a malignant narcissist. They don't have to sit down in a room with him because a lot of times these doctors would rather watch the patient from afar than up close. That way they can see the patient in his natural state. Am I wrong or am I right?
They're the person's patient.
There's a what?
You have to be their patient.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. You can say that someone has. You can say that someone has traits that you believe, right? But you're not equipped to make a diagnosis.
Okay, if you're a neurologist and you're an expert in Parkinson's, you can just watch somebody walk around. You can look at their eyes and their face and diagnose it within 10 minutes.
No, you cannot.
Okay.
No, you cannot, because there are
Absolutely
many things. There are many things that mimic and imitate and share symptoms with Parkinson's. No, you cannot.
Yes, dementia.
I will tell you right now, John, if you had met me when I was about to go into a thyroid storm and my hands were trembling, you would have thought I had Parkinson's, but I didn't.
No, I would have had to watch you walk and see the movement of your eyes and the way you hold your hands. Just because you're shaking doesn't mean you have Parkinson's.
Yeah, well, so like I said, you can't diagnose. Here's the thing. You can you can say whatever you want. What I would say to
You're
you,
expert
very
at that.
like sincerely, is I've seen the clip that you're discussing. He did not quote unquote yank
Yes,
Gus.
he did.
No, he didn't. He had a firm grip on his hand to guide him in the way he needed to go. That is not yanking. That is not abusive. That is not anything. And to make the assumption, to make the leap, to go from there and go, oh, who knows what they do in private is just absolutely crazy.
Every parent of an autistic child agrees with me.
Well, no, they don't.
Yes, they do. I've talked
No,
to
they
them.
don't. I'm telling you because we have autistic children in my family, and no, they don't.
So
So John, here's what people tend to do, and then I'm going to move on and get to Tanya and some other folks. Here's what people tend to do. They tend to ask people who will confirm their opinions.
no, I was just
Right.
on a chat with parents.
And again, it depends on who the people are in the chat. Like, do those people are like, there's a reason that you all are already in a chat together, right?
No.
Because you all have some sort of commonality
No,
and
this
some
is
sort of whatever.
This is a
So
pro-Harris chat.
it doesn't matter. Just because they're just because they're pro Harris doesn't mean that that everybody is going to agree with you. It's just not, it's just not the case. And everybody doesn't have to agree with you, or everybody doesn't have to agree with me.
No,
right?
but, that's why I tend to listen to experts.
So do I.
Well, here's one for you. Did you know that Biden and Harris, and I have an expert that you can listen to,
don't change the subject.
are sending between $40 and $80 million a week to Afghanistan, to the Taliban?
So a little bit of TikTok etiquette. You can't say the T-ban in the full word on TikTok.
Okay, this is ridiculous. We're being censored in our own country.
Well, no, you are being censored on an app that a private company owns. And if you don't want to be censored by them, then you don't use their app. In everything that you use, you agree to the terms and conditions of that. In order to use an Apple phone, you agree to the terms and conditions. In order to use a Samsung phone, you agree to the terms and conditions. When you join TikTok, John, you agree to the terms and conditions. It's not hard.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't like it, you're like, oh, we're being censored. Well, yeah, because this is their app.
This is my last time on it. But so, what else do you want to talk to me about? Anything?
Well, you came up, so I was asking
No,
you.
I just came up to say I can't stand either
Here's the
side.
thing, John. First of all, it would be great if you even took the time to know that Gus Waltz isn't autistic. He has a non-verbal learning disorder. He's not even autistic. He has a non-verbal learning disorder.
Okay.
Right. So go read up on that. Go find out what that is, because
But what? He's special needs, correct?
he has a non-verbal learning disorder.
Is he special
And
needs?
he is well loved and well taken care of and all the things.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it's very hard for people to find something wrong with Tim Waltz, so they are doing their best.
no. The only things I find wrong with him is that when he lies about being at war when he wasn't. I think that's a pretty big deal. Call me crazy.
Well, here's what he said from everything that I saw was that he traveled, when he was deployed to Italy, it was to support the folks that were in conflict.
No, he said he was on an air-based landing strip in Afghanistan, number one. Then the other thing.
So show me, where did he say that?
I like her. I love her.
He was giving like a political speech.
It was at he was on the campaign trail, and he did not say he specifically carried himself weapons of war. What he said was weapons of war were taken. He didn't say, and he corrected himself really, really quick. But here's my thing. 24 years, hold on, I'm speaking. 24 years this man gave to his country while he was a teacher. So he had a full-time job as a teacher and was in the reserves. Only left the reserve after 24 years to run for Senate to help his state, to help veterans. I work with autistic children. I've heard you so far. You've claimed to be a neurologist. You know all about Parkinson's and all these other diseases. You claim to know all these different things.
What cert you got?
Are you a neurologist? Do you have your MD or your doctorate in anything health field related?
No, I went to
Then
public
shut
school
up.
in Oklahoma.
Seriously, I am so tired. I'm a nurse.
Tolerance.
I'm 21-year Navy retired veteran. I'm a veteran. I'm a nurse. I work with disabled people every single solitary day. I work with kids. I work with children that are on the spectrum, that have autism, that have nonverbal diagnoses, that have all different kinds of situations and diagnoses going on. Some of these children that are nonverbal have to be guided physically. They have to be nudged. They have to be grabbed. They have to be redirected. They have to be showed something. Imagine having a learning disorder, being nonverbal, being on a stage in front of millions of people. It probably overwhelmed the young gentleman that has severe sensory issues, okay? So, like, why are you even up here chiming in on that?
Because that's not the way you do it.
It is for them, and you
is
don't
for
know what the way
them,
they
and
do
they're
it is,
raising
John.
Why is
That's
it
not
for
fair.
them?
John, get
25
down.
years, I
Get
know how
down.
to do it, how not to
Get
do
down.
it.
Listen, you are not Gus's daddy, John. So you get to do what you think your son needs, and Gus does what his son needs,
I
and you
treat him
don't
with
know
love
his
and
son.
respect. I treat
How
my
do
son
you
with
know
love
that
and
his son
respect. I
isn't
don't
loved and
yank him
respected?
around.
John, get down.
Listen, for a nonverbal person
Get down.
to jump up, you cannot coach, you cannot train, you cannot teach these people to act. For a nonverbal person to stand up with that much emotion and say, "That's my dad," and to be
That's not what
screaming,
I'm
hold
talking
on,
about.
and to be screaming and crying, obviously they treat their son very well. Very, very, very well. He even learned how to drive. Tim taught him how to drive when they said he'll never drive, he'll never do this, he'll never do that. Just why do you even feel you have a say in going against a family that has a special needs person? Like, what makes you think you're so special? You get to tell other people how to raise and treat their children.
Exactly.
I just would never do what he did.
Sir, shut the fuck
You've
up.
never spanked your children.
No, I never have, not one
You
time.
never put them in timeout.
Nope.
You've never had to grab them for doing something stupid or running across
I
the
don't
street.
grab him. I gently put my arm around him and guide him.
Well, that's great. I work with autistic children and people on the spectrum every day, and I get beat down daily. I have a shiner right now. I wish I had video access so I could show you what my 17-year-old patient did to me the other day. You do not know. Every single family I work with is different. Some families don't even have to redirect. The child just
Right,
follows them.
okay.
Some families have to redirect 24/7. Some families literally have to put locks on the doors in their house so their children won't run out. So what the, like, for you to get up here and think you're holier than thou because your situation is different is ridiculous.
Well,
The child is fine. Gus is fine. Gus is absolutely fine, and he is living his best life.
100%.
Get out, John.
Period.
I hope he does great. I just have never seen
Well,
anyone
he
do
is
that
doing
before.
great, John, that's the point. He is doing great.
Well,
He
you know,
is doing great.
okay.
Please drop
I've
him.
been around big kids, you know, that were
Please
special
drop
needs.
him.
I had to
I
help
can't
one
take
out
no
of
more.
a special needs dinner to his mom's car, and he's probably 180 pounds. I didn't yank him around.
Denny.
John,
I treated him
that
like
is
I did
not.
my son
We
at
got
work.
this
Why is this so hard for you to comprehend?
Because it was
That
just such a
what you-
violent
so
thing to do.
listen, John, this is not hard. This is literally not hard. That family has raised their child and knows what he needs,
Let's try the black and white.
especially in
Get the fuck
extreme
down.
situations,
Get
extreme circumstances.
Uh-huh.
They know what he needs.
Okay.
You do not. You do not. And the fact that you are sitting back thinking that you know what someone else needs to do with their child is like a little crazy, right? I mean, it comes from a place of superiority. Like,
A sick place.
why do you think that you would know better than someone else what they need to do with their child? Why would you think that?
Because my son tends to wander off.
No, I
Hey,
didn't ask about
entitlement.
your son. I did not ask about your son, John.
I just
Because
would've
you
done
know
it
what to
a
do
different
with
way.
your son,
I would've
John.
done it a
You
different
know what
way.
to do with your son.
Your
My
child.
question is very
Your child.
specific. Why do you think that you know what's best for someone else's son? Why would you ever
child.
think
That
that?
is-
Because I've been in similar situations.
Okay, so you
That
would
does
like
not
it
make
if
you an
someone sat
expert.
back and said, John,
Please let me up.
I've been in similar situations. You need to be
Please let me
handling
up.
your son firmer. You need to be redirecting him firmer. You need to be doing things different, John.
Please let me up. Please let me up.
No, I
Please.
don't.
Well, why not? Why
Please let me
not?
up.
Why not? Because they're
I
in
can
similar
listen to my
situations.
asshole, please.
They should be able to tell you what you need to do with your kid,
John,
John.
get down. Get down. Get out.
He can do anything
Because
he wants to.
you
with
done
his
set
kid.
up here and
No,
talk about
listen,
you was
John,
expert.
here, we're
You
talking
said you were an
fairness,
expert,
right?
sir.
So someone should be able to sit back, watch you in your regular environment with your son, and say, "Hey, John, you're not doing it right. I have a child who's autistic, and I know the way that it should be done. I know that it doesn't matter like what your kid has compared to my kid has, but I'm going to tell you that every kid needs to be done the way that I do it, because my way is the only way that's right.
I would want them to say something to me if I did something wrong.
No, they don't have to say anything to you. They can just sit back and tell the whole world that you did it wrong.
I don't care what they say.
Right? Well, I mean, I'm just saying they can get up and literally just talk about you and make speculations that you abuse your son in private. Why don't we do that? Why don't they get on platforms all over the internet and say, oh my gosh, and in group chats, why don't that person just get in there and say, you know what? I've seen the way that John is. Ain't no telling what John does in private.
Well,
that would be fair, right, John? That would be fair.
I ain't time for this shit. Make sure I block this motherfucker. I ain't got time. What?
Speculations about what type of parent you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
John,
that's what we want them to do, right?
Would you say that all children on the spectrum have the same plan, have the same behavioral plan, have the same medical plan? They don't, because it's such an individualistic disease. What one kid might experience on the spectrum, another kid doesn't have that symptom. It's very, very individualistic treatment. Yes, there's a spectrum, and yes, we have things that we go by and that we try to go by to make everything like good for them. There's plans, so I can't even talk. I'm so mad over this.
I know.
And so on and so forth. But it's just like, why would you think that all children are the same? They're just like adults, like mental health. One pill might work for one kid, one pill doesn't work for another. But you're literally getting up here comparing all children on the spectrum to you and your son as if you have all the answers. And let me tell you as a parent, with somebody on the spectrum, bro, if you have all the answers, I'd love them. I would love every single one of them, because there's parents out here every day. We're shooting from the hip. Just keeping our kids safe and getting what they need and advocating from them.
100%.
I've been around these kids all my life. I've never seen anybody do that.
Well, I have too, and I have. So there you go, John. Well, I don't know what else to tell you. And here's what I would say before I let you go, because I need to get to some other folks. This is the only other thing that I would offer you, John, right? Is this is probably one of the most important elections in the history of our country. And instead of judging what you believe a parent should or shouldn't be doing, maybe, hold on a second, let me finish.
Okay.
Maybe you should start looking at policy. You should start looking at track records. You should start looking at plans, like the things that are actually going to affect you and your son. Does your son go to public school or does he go to private school?
He's out of school now.
Okay, he's out of school and he's at home. What kind of resources do you get?
None. And I've paid his health insurance since the day he was born. Of course, when he turned 18, he went on Medicaid. But and I sent him to Mrs. Soma in Austin, who's the number one.
So Medicaid is important to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you might want to take a look and see what could be happening to government health care and things like that may impact your son. You might want to actually look at the issues that will directly impact your lives, because how Tim Walz guides his son off the stage at the DNC is really not of any relevance to you and yours.
Actually, to be honest, my number one concern, because I'm watching my friends pass from cancer and stuff like that, is our food supply. And that's why I liked RFK, because he actually had the guts to try to take on big corporations who I think run the country. I don't think that the government works for us. I think we work for the government.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to Vice President Kamala Harris's, well, number one, the FTC already blocked one huge merger earlier this year, right? So between Kroger's and Albertsons, it's a $2 billion grocery store merger that if it goes through, between Walmart and Kroger's, they would control 70% of our grocery stores, right? So there's a reason that the FTC, excuse me?
I don't think grocery stores are our problem.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Other people might disagree. And here's what I would offer you. Since, I've literally been sitting in FTC open meetings for the last year because I testify before them every other month. So here's what I would say to you, John, is that other grocery stores absolutely believe they're a problem. They believe that during COVID-19, they jumped to the front of the line when it comes to supply chain, and that they are absolutely engaging in unfair pricing, right? That's what supply, and so that's why I want to enforce the Robinson. It's called the Robinson-Patman Act, right? Those are you just said huge corporations. You just hold on, John. I'm really it's like impulse control. Huge corporations are the problem, right? And so that's exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to your grocery stores, right? Monopolizing our grocery stores and our food supply is an issue. And if you don't know that, then I would highly recommend that you go listen to the FTC open meeting recordings and listen to independent grocers begging them to enforce the Robinson-Patman Act, because it's a thing, John. It's a real thing. And if you want to talk about someone who's actually going to take on big corporations, then you might want to look at Kamala Harris, because after the banks had taken advantage of California citizens and they were only going to give them $5 billion of their money back, she got $20 billion for them. If you really want to look at somebody who's going to take on big corporations, go check out how many of the big pharma guys that Kamala Harris took on as the AG of California. And then look at her track record, John, if you really want to look at someone who has taken on big corporations. Because all I've seen from the other side is the people who actually are funded by them, who do what they do, who all of those things. So that's all I'm going to ask you to do, and then I do need to move on.
Okay. All I can say is all I ever see is lip service and nothing ever gets done.
Well, that's because you're not looking, John. If you would like to look, literally everything that I just told you is on the internet.
Down.
I'm sorry, what?
I look every day. I watch my friends passing, and it's because of the food.
Oh my God.
Well, then I guess maybe.
And she was 4 years as a
So
vice
let me ask
president.
you this. So let me ask you this. Do you think easing regulations for the EPA and the FDA, do you think that helps?
I think corporations own them.
No, this is what I ask you. Do you think deregulating the FDA and the EPA helps our food?
I don't think it would matter. I think they're owned.
You don't think it would matter?
Slow as
Okay, well,
fuck.
I can't help you then, John. I honestly can't help you,
slow as
because that's
fuck.
what Trump did. So I
That's
mean, I can't
why
help
I
you.
wanted RFK. He was
Well,
asking to help us.
He's used every excuse, sis. You have given him
Lulu,
amazing
cuss about for me.
answers. She's taken on more corporations than any other, basically, lawyer. Like, she's amazing. She's done so much for the American people. And you've given him all these reasons to say, well, if this is
Lulu,
why,
cuss about
he's
for
just not, men are not going to tell you the reason why they won't. They're not
Yeah,
going
and
to
it's
come out.
fine with me. But I mean, this is my thing, John. I do have to move on to time.
She's a
She's
career
been waiting very
politician.
patiently. John, be respectful of everybody else's time.
Thank
If you
you,
want to come
guys.
back if you want to come back another time, that's fine. But right now, I need to go to Tanya.
I can't take TikTok anymore, but I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey, Tanya. Thank you for being so patient. Tanya, can you hear me?
Tanya, no clock down. This nigga was so long-winded.
Okay, I'm going to go to Garcia. Other folks that I'm bringing up, please put yourself on mute until I can get to you. All right, Garcia, I've unmuted you. Garcia? Well, you about to come down too. Candy, you're up.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am just lovely, thank you. I really didn't want to come up. I pushed that button by accident because I'm on my way to sleep.
It's okay. It happens sometimes.
I am voting for Kamala Harris.
Awesome. Me too. Me too. Well, I hope that you stick around and listen and follow and all the things and, get something that helps.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate your platform.
I appreciate you too. All right, Michaela.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
You know, it's not his fault. Just we're all misinformed and just need to educate
It's his fault.
ourselves more.
John is
Yeah.
the only one who's correct.
Oh goodness, it was, I'm like texting in the messages. So I just hope that he gets some pamphlets in his mailbox to kind of help him along a little more. It's hard to go out in public and you have
Pamphlets is
people with
crazy.
mindsets like him that when
You know he ain't
but
wrong, though.
this year with politics has been very up and down and all over. I didn't even think I was going to I'm going to think about the country. He's going to think about vindicating all of his BS over the years. And the other one, but when Kamala came up, I said, okay, we have a chance.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a different
I
perspective.
can't hear her, Danny. Can you? I don't know if the rest
Yeah.
of
now?
Lulu, sometimes that happens when you're on the panel. If you
We're getting kicked out. So my perspective is a little different, which is why before when it was Trump and Biden, I felt like really years with my husband. I met him there. He's Italian. I had a high-risk pregnancy. I came over in 2020 for a 14-day trip, and on day 10, they closed the borders.
oof.
Feet. But so like the immigration policies, I'm back and forth. I think that we need to take a hold of it, but also do it the right way. My brain is all, I don't know how to like get to that end goal, but I don't think that like my husband's an immigrant and we've gone through so much here and paying and struggling and standing in food pantry lines.
If you can't hear, hold on one second. If you can't hear, I would go out of the app and come back in. Michaela.
So it's just, like I don't know the right way, but I don't think that like pinning Americans against just them getting their documents or being like, how long have you been here illegally? Something, but I don't know. So that issue is very like touchy on both sides. Well, I just think that there should be a good balance through both.
The undocumented immigrants. Those individuals are not here illegally. So what everyone needs to understand is that in the United States of America, whether they arrived at a port of entry, whether they arrived between port of entry, and they claim to seek asylum, they are no longer illegal. That's not illegal. It is legal. Doesn't matter how they got here.
Right.
So let me just, so for the
Some of my family, they think it's like we
No.
can't get any support. And I
yeah,
said,
but-
listen, I'm actually okay with that. Like, yes, we got stuck here. It was visas at the border and health insurance. I don't know.
no,
anything
they don't
about
get
that.
any of those things.
I know personally, my husband, he could not get any state funding, medical, food stamps, anything. Like, I'm on it because my son is disabled. I have epilepsy. I'm disabled. So they put our income limit as a family of 3. They do not count my husband, and he does not get anything. I actually believe that. Like, hey, we're letting you come here. Like, there's other options if you do need help, but these, you got to pay in to get these funding. So
let me,
but it's struggling. We are like, it's hard, but
right. Well, so what I want to do is provide a little clarity, right?
Okay.
So if somebody wants to put this in the chat, this is fine. It's 8 USC 1158. That is the
yes.
And so here's what it says. Number 1, in general, any undocumented immigrant who is physically present in the United States or who arrives in the United States national or United States waters, irrespective of such undocumented immigrant status, may apply for asylum in accordance with this section or where applicable of this title. So they may seek asylum, period. So they are not quote unquote illegals. They are here legally according to our law. You don't like our law, then if it's brow, hold on, because I'm not ready for you yet. The second thing is 8 USC 1611. That is the federal law that actually tells you what they do. Exception of organ transplants. Now, the states have the ability and they have the authority to make their own state laws. And California has done. But that's purchase it, right? And just for perspective, right? In 2022, the undocumented immigrants in this country paid 90 into the system. Well, they do. So that everyone gets that. So they are coming through the legal asylum seeking process, right? They do work, they do pay.
Like, it's so scary and sad what is going on with housing. Me and my husband, we had a place of our own. We were paying $1,800 for a 2-bedroom duplex. And the other side of the duplex, nobody was living there at the time. And he said that he was just going to like paint and no construction. I was 6 months pregnant and then my autistic 2-year-old at the time. And he started doing full-on demo, ripping down walls to stud in the middle of the winter. We're in New England. My house was like 36 degrees, 38 degrees. I had my son newborn, exposed lead, everything. My town officials told me to withhold rent in order to get him, put it in whatever the word that is, so that he would be forced to make the repairs. There was multiple coding violations and everything. And when I followed what they told me to do, my landlord, it was just when they lifted the no eviction ban, my landlord went and filed eviction for non-payment, even though it was in that allocated fund.
It was an escrow.
Escrow, sorry, that's the word. It was in escrow, and I did everything, and he went to court, and of course we couldn't afford anything. I had a pro bono loaner, and the judge was in a bad mood, and they won. And we got an illegal eviction on us in a time where we almost became homeless because we could not find, my husband being an immigrant with like no credit from coming to America, and me not working, they want 3 times the rent with great credit. And I'm like, all right, we have a 740 credit from me, but I don't work. And then him, no credit, but he works. And to have that feeling like I might get kicked out of my own country and have to move back to Italy, which then all of our visa, the $8,000 we spent on all of his documents would get thrown out. And if we ever wanted to come back, he'd have to do it all over again. All because landlords have more rights and power than the tenants, and the pricing of housing is astronomical.
Yeah. What state do you live in?
I live in Rhode Island, and I hate the snow. I hate everything. But when we got stuck here, this is where my family's from. So it's kind of like, this was what we had to do.
Yeah. So first, that's a local and a state law issue.
Okay, we're in a lawsuit now.
And so, yeah. And so, I mean, that's definitely what it is. And if your local government gave you like wrong advice and wrong instruction, then
we're going after that.
But the thing about it is that when we talk about housing and the issues with housing, it's very similar to what we see happening in healthcare. It's very similar to what we see happening in grocery stores. There is a lot of private equity-backed organizations buying up the housing and driving the cost up, which is why Kamala Harris has put out it's a multi-tiered plan to address the housing issue.
That's great.
So I think that if you haven't seen it, her team put out a full press release about 13 days ago, but the press only included like little snippets in it, but there's a whole other section in it. So part of it is to address the private equity folks that are buying up all the property. Another piece of it is to address the folks that are doing price fixing, price setting, with all of these different corporations to keep rent high. So there are different components, and I happen to like it because it is a multi-pronged approach to be able to kind of solve the issue. Is it going to solve everything overnight? No. Will she definitely have to put in a mechanism for oversight to ensure that states apply the money the way that it should be done? Absolutely, right? And what is probably like the best part of it is that it will not affect people. In other words, people will not be paying for it unless they make more than $400,000 a year. So people who make less than $400,000 a year, she is committed to keeping their taxes from going up, right? So I think that when we look at it, it's time for corporations to be held accountable. It's time for, other people to pay their share instead of finding the loopholes.
Yeah, especially because they only made it to that point because of consumers like us. So, you don't want to burn your bridge with your consumers.
Right.
So, I mean, and then my only other issue is, which we've all touched on, medical. And I mean, for me, I admit when I'm not educated enough, like I don't know everything. I just hear the snippets, and I know people are like, we should do social medicine. And then other people are like, no. Well, I've lived in Europe. Okay. When I was a high risk pregnancy, where did I go? I came back here. Okay. So I'm like, again, I don't know how to get there, but I think that everybody deserves medical. Absolutely. Right. I hate that I had a seizure and I couldn't go and get my medication because I couldn't afford like everything that came with it. And by having a seizure, I knocked out two of my teeth, and the insurance won't pay. and dental
Right.
won't cover it. Well, then it's from a medical disorder. But also living in Europe, being fully social in Italy, I also felt like I couldn't get the quality of care, you know, but I also see that by being social, like people just don't go to the doctors for a headache and stuff like that, like we do here in America. It makes you really rethink, like, do I really need to go to the doctors?
Well-
so this, I think
a dual healthcare option. In other words, where you do have Medicare for all that is available to everyone, but then also have privatized insurance. So
now the other option, is it an affordable option? Would it be
Well,
an affordable option, or would
that's
it
up
be
to the health
like only
insurance
for the
plans.
rich?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
That will be up to the insurance plans, and you know, and she doesn't get to set those prices.
Yeah,
Right.
because right now
So-
we're paying. They say that we're not poor enough for state. Only my son, because he's disabled. But I'm like, we're barely getting by. What do you mean? Like, how poor do you have to be to get onto this insurance? And my husband pays it through his job, like $600 a month just for him, because we can't afford the family plan. So it's
Got it.
just it's a lot. Being able to live, so I feel like medical is my first priority, because you
Yeah.
always have to make sure that you're good, and then the rest of it. But
Yeah. Well,
I think that what you're putting out there is great knowledge, great education, great advice. I was doing my dishes and listening to you, and I was like, this girl, she's onto something. So thank you. I am going to have to cut off. I'm going to continue listening, but my son needs me, and I got to go.
do it.
Thank
All right.
you for
I appreciate you.
everything.
Hope it was helpful.
I hope we all get through this together.
We will. We will.
United we stand.
We'll get there eventually.
I don't know how to get off, so